your calculator out, if you haven't done that already. Who's my favorite student? Good old Anne. Number 1. Well, Josh, I underlined the word dropped. To me, that's a trigger word. They want me to find how high the cliff is. This actually, I'm going to end up finding a displacement. I'm going to end up getting a negative answer because I'm ending up below from where I started from. In your final answer, Emily, if you give me your final answer as negative or positive, I won't care. You may have noticed in the answer keys that I've made up, especially the free fall one, because height is technically a scalar, in the answer key, I probably wrote it as positive, even though you got a negative answer on your calculator. As long as the magnitudes match, we're good. VI is 0. I always know in free fall that A is negative 9.8. Looks like the 18.5 is a time. I said, you know what? I can use D equals a half AT squared. I didn't bother writing the VIT because VI was 0. And then it was just a question of carefully plugging in the numbers. I think for number 1, I ended up getting negative 1,680 and change. If you said positive 1,680, because how high doesn't tell you whether it's a displacement or a distance. Yeah. I have a habit of rounding my final answers to 3 sig figs. So, of course, what you probably got, you're really going to make me crunch that now, are you? Negative 9.8 times 18.5, don't forget the squared, divided by 2. Negative 677.025. If you said negative 1,670, I'm taking a half off, though. Learn to round off. If you forget units, I'm taking a half mark off. Proper units. So, good habit before you hand this test in, do a units check. Right? Right. Yeah. If you said positive or negative for this specific, now if it had said find the displacement, then I have to have the negative. How high is very vague. B said find the impact velocity of the cannonball. You know what? That's a VF. And it's not 0. I didn't bother relisting everything because I have it right here. I noticed I can find VF by using VI plus AT, although Casey, since VI was 0, didn't bother writing it. And carefully crunching the numbers, I got a negative answer, which didn't surprise me because I am traveling downwards when I hit the ground. I got negative 181. That's rounded again to 3 sig figs. You might have had some decimals in there, but to 3 sig figs, I got that. Okay. C and D are basically the same question as A and B, but with different numbers. So C, they said, find the velocity. I said, okay, that's a VF. This time has changed, so I wrote it right away so I wouldn't forget. It's still dropped, and I can still use A equals negative 9.8. So I said, really, it's this same question. It's VF equals AT. Also, I made a prediction. Diego, I said, even before I got negative 33.3, I said it hasn't fallen as far. Its magnitude is going to be smaller than negative 181 meters per second. It's going to be considerably less. So the fact that I got that, that looks about right to me. Same with part D. It wants me to find how far. I'll take positive or negative because they didn't specify distance or displacement. I wrote D equals question mark. VI is still 0. Time is 6 seconds. A is negative 9.8. So again, it's going to be D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. But again, VI Diego is 0, so I was too lazy to write the VIT. If you write it, that's fine. And then I carefully crunched the numbers. Don't forget the squared. That's the most common mistake. And I got negative 176 meters. And again, that seemed right because after 18.5 seconds, it fell 1,680. I had somebody this morning say, Mr. Dewick, wait a minute, 6 seconds is roughly 1/3 of 18.5. Shouldn't the answer be 1/3 of negative 1,680? No, that squared doesn't allow you to make that prediction. That squared means it's not a linear function. You can't make that prediction. I just knew it would be smaller in magnitude. Yeah, good. I heard somebody murmur, I forgot the squared. Get your silly mistakes out of your system on these. Do your corrections. Be angry at yourself when you're doing the corrections. Write a little note, whatever it takes, so that on the real thing, you'll give me the stink eye. Nice try, Duick. I'm getting the marks here. That's what these are for. Number 2 is very, very oh no, sorry. I stand corrected. I was going to say number 2 is very similar to number 1. It's not. We're throwing from the ground up. It looks like in A, we're being asked to find time. How long does it take? Definitely VI is 56. The question told me that. What else do I know? Oh, we're in the air. So if we're in free fall, whether we're on the way up or on the way down, A is negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Problem. That's only 2 things. I need 3 things to find the... Yeah, what else do I know? At the top, VF equals 0. I'm looking for an equation that's got a VF, a VI, an A, and a T in it. There is one. Ruby, what's the equation? And I love how you already got the T by itself. Again, if you're still struggling with this step here, you want to hit me up for a flex tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. No school Wednesday, so you can't hit me up then, but we are in the home stretch here. When I carefully plugged in the numbers, I got 5.71. Yes? You probably just rounded off sloppy. Let's see. That's my guess, because it's 0 minus 56, so I would take a half mark off, and then you can do your correction, but I would give you 1.5 out of 2. Right? It's definitely 5.71 and change. B, what's the maximum height? Well, I said, I guess this is asking me to find a displacement. This will be positive, because I am above from where I started. I didn't relist everything. Now, gotta be honest. If you wanted to, you could go D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. You could use your answer from part A. If I do that really quickly, if I go 56 times answer button plus 0.5 times negative 9.8 times answer button squared, I get 160, which is the answer you got no matter which method you use. I chose to go with D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A, because that allowed me to use the information that they gave me. And again, when I plugged that in exactly, 0 squared minus 56 squared divided by 2 times negative 9.8, negative 9.8, Mr. Duick. Same deal, exactly 160. You could also have used D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over. And again, if you use your answer button, you'll get exactly 160. If you use the rounded off value, you'll probably get like 159.8 or something like that. And I'll give you full credit for that. I try not to use an answer to find an answer, but if you're stuck, use an answer to find an answer. I mean, don't just leave it blank. Okay? So the answer to all of those was exactly 160. For all of these, I would give you, by the way, 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. 1 mark for the equation, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. And so the other message I leave all of you, try never to leave stuff blank on my tests. Because I think almost all of you, once you've listed everything, can figure out which equation we're going to end up using. I hope. In theory. Ooh! Joanna, part C. How many marks is part C worth? How many marks is part B worth? How many marks is part D worth? This isn't good physics, this is good test writing. If Mr. Duick has like a little 1 marker, he's probably saying you know the answer already and don't need to do any math. What is the impact velocity of the ball? Not 0. What is the impact velocity? Yeah. VF equals what? Think carefully. VF equals what? Negative 56, because what goes up must come. That only works if we're starting on the ground and ending on the ground, which we are in this question. I don't see the word cliff anywhere in this question. But if you're starting on the ground and ending on the ground, your VF is your negative VI. Well done. I had a lot of my students leave that one blank. And so easy that it's tough. Okay? That's a phrase you'll hear me say fairly often this year. That's so easy that it's tough. What I really mean is when you have the aha moment, it'll stick. But to get to that aha moment is a bit tricky. Hey, Bryce, what's D asking me to find? Didn't I find that in A? That was time to top. This wants how long the ball is in the air for totally. So one way you can double it. Or if I hadn't done A already, the other thing I could do is I could use VF as negative 56, VI as positive 56, and that gives me the 11.4 as well. But no matter what, it's 11.4 seconds. I don't care how you got there. Oh, there's at least one other way you could find time, but it's complicated enough that I doubt any of you would have tried it, so I'm not going to mention it. But there's at least two other ways you could find time, but why? Oh, hey Diego, how many marks is E worth? Probably means you can get the answer without doing any math. What is the displacement of the ball once it hits the ground? Because how high was it when it started? 0. How high was it when it finished? So what's its change of position? 0. Okay. Does that work on a cliff? Nope, because you're ending up below from where you started. Works on the ground though. Oh yeah, turn the page. Number 3 is exactly the same as number 1, except VI isn't 0. If you go back and look at 1A, it asked how high is the cliff. 3A asks how high is the cliff. So I'm going to say, okay, Captain Obvious, D equals question mark. This time, VI is, and I caught the negative, negative 14. Time is 22. A is negative 9.8. If you missed the negative 14, I would give you 1.5 out of 2, and I'll show you what you would have got. I think I can find this by going D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. It's going to be D equals negative 14 times T, clear, negative 14 times T plus a half times negative 9.8 times 22 squared. If you do that, you'll get negative 2,600, and I round it off to 80. If you missed the negative 14, if you got negative 2,064, I would give you 1.5 out of 2. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and again, I love the fact that I'm hearing, this is going to sound bad, but I'm hearing silly mistakes. Good! Get them out of your system. Right? Don't do them on the test. More specific. What did you do? You made two errors?
2 errors.
I'd give you 1 out of 2. Yeah. Half mark off for each mistake, and then do your corrections and let it sting and get it right. B. What's the impact velocity of the ball? Okay. Again, I used VF equals VI plus AT because I had VI, A, and T. In this case, VI isn't 0, but it's fairly plug and chuggish. I ended up with negative 230 meters per second when I went to 3 sig figs.
Oh, negative. Oh, right. Oh.
If you missed the negative, you would have negative 216, I think.
I got 202. I'm not doing it wrong.
Give me 1 second, whoever that is. I did times, Mr. Dewick. I did that this morning, too. Same mistake twice. Negative 201. You're right. Sorry, because it would double. Yeah. Yes. Quick like a money, short walk, and come, like, don't go for a wander, right? Okay. Yeah. So, lawyer with me later, we'll look at it. So put a star next to that one. And when I say at the end, anybody lawyering with me? Now is the time. That's when we'll figure it out. Yeah. Sorry? I would give you 1.5 out of 2. Yep. Okay. What are we on next, Mr. Dewick? Ooh. Careful. I guess that means I better be careful and really pay attention. Definitely number 4 looks like it's asking me to find that. Well, they even said the word initial velocity, so I got that okay, and it looks like it's positive. I'm in free fall. And it looks like d equals 252. What's the mistake that I just made? Can you see it? What? What's negative? I gotta be fussy. It's not a distance. It's the other one. Yeah, so I need to realize that I need to put a negative there. Okay? If you missed that, I think you would get an error on your calculator, and so it would tap you. Language, please. It would tap you on the shoulder. Now, I think I'm going to use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD, and then to get the VF by itself, I square root. It's going to end up being the square root of 34, don't forget the squared, plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. For a complicated square root like this, I will sometimes just type what's inside the square root. 34 squared plus 2 times negative 9.8 times negative 252. Hit equals, and then go square root answer button. And I get 78.1. And this is wrong. Why is 78.1 meters per second wrong? This is that weird situation when I took the square root where I have to overrule my calculator. It assumes I want the positive answer. I know we're going down. So I have to insert a negative. If you missed that negative, I would give you 1.5 out of 2. Okay. B. How long until it hits the ground? Oh, that's asking me to find time. You know what? I think I would use T equals VF minus VI over A, the same equation Ruby gave us a few minutes ago, I think. It's going to be negative 78.1 minus 34 all over negative 9.8. I have positive 78.1. You know what? Bracket. I want to use my answer button, but I want it to be negative. Fine. Negative answer button. Oh. Answer button. There. Minus 34, close bracket, divided by negative 9.8. If you use your answer button all the way through, you got 11.4 seconds. If you round it off, I would probably, if I looked at your work, accept 11.3 maybe, or 11.5. It would depend on what numbers you used. Is that right, folks? I think. I heard. Yeah? Yep. Then I would turn the page. Ooh! Let's write a slide. This is that question where I said we're going to divide our page into 2, and we're going to divide it into, while we're on the slide and while we're on the ground. Now, how did I spot that so quick? Because, Bryce, I saw a distance there and a distance there. The fact that they gave me 2 of the same thing, or if they gave me 2 accelerations or 2 different times, I would say, you know what, there's 2 trips going on here. It's a little bit trickier with velocities because we have VI and VF. If they give me 2 velocities, that doesn't mean there's 2 trips. All right. I saw from rest, I said, okay, VI on the slide is 0. 4 meters, I said, okay, D equals 4. 2.5 seconds, I said T equals 2.5. Ha! For part A, I said I can find VF. I'm going to use D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. I said VF is going to be 2 times D divided by T and then minus VI, although since VI was 0, Casey, I just chucked it. And if I did that, I got 2 times 4 divided by 2.5. Is it 3.2? Yeah. So that's the answer to A. Most of you probably answered B down here. I want to try and keep this on one screen, so I'm going to answer part B in this space because I think part B, we are on the ground. So I made a little note here. I saw the word stops. I said, okay, VF is 0. D equals yuck. I didn't like 25 centimeters. I converted it to 0.25 meters. I said, they want me to find A. I need one more thing. I need 3 things to find the 4th. What else do I know? Yeah. You mean my VF at the bottom of the slide is my VI right when I hit the ground? It is. Good. And so now I can go A equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2D. And when I carefully crunch that, I got negative 20.5, I think. Nearly 2G, in fact, a little more than 2 Gs. This kid probably felt it in their legs a little bit, didn't bend their knees enough. Number 6. This was a tough question. This is probably tougher than I feel comfortable asking you on a test, unless maybe it's a bonus. I don't mind putting it on a quiz because I want the quizzes to be tougher than the tests and you get a chance to do your corrections and learn from them. I yoinked this right from the homework, from number 19, I think it was lesson 4. So, the trick to this is to realize, here's our car. It's driving along. Here's the poor kid. I don't know why people keep putting a kid at risk. The driver takes some time to react. I think the first section of the trip, the car is just coasting on cruise controls, not speeding up or slowing down. And then in the second part of the trip, the driver is braking. And so I'm going to basically divide this question in 2. And I think what I want to find is how far the car travels while coasting. I'll call that DC. How far the car travels while braking. I'll call that DB. And then I think the total is going to be add them up. What's this 15? Pretty sure that's VI. What's this 0.5? Pretty sure that's time. That 8 is after we're slowing down, so that's over here. I need something else here. I need 3 things to find the 4th. What else do I know if I'm on cruise control, if I'm not speeding up or slowing down? What else do I know? Yeah. A is 0. This is the aha moment number 1, which makes this a tough question. And so to find D, you'll use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared, but then the A will just vanish. In fact, the half AT squared will vanish. You actually get this. The coasting distance is just VIT. The coasting distance is 15 times 0.5. I can do that in my head. 7.5 meters. Let's walk over to braking. I saw it stops, so that means VF is 0. You pointed that out earlier, Josh. This is sort of a slow motion car accident. Acceleration. Ooh, I noticed we're slowing down, so A is negative 8. What else do I know? I need 3 things to find the 4th. What else do I know? Well, Declan, how fast was the car going right here? 15? How about right here? Still. How about right here? Still. How about right here? You know what? Right when we hit the brakes, VI is still 15. That's 3 things. I can find a fourth. I think I'm going to use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. It's going to be VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. It's going to be 0 squared minus 15 squared all over 2 times negative 8. I get the breaking distance is going to be 0 squared minus 15 squared all over 2 times negative, 9, Mr. Dewick, 8. I get a breaking distance of 14.0625, and I kept all the sig figs, so this was not my final answer, so I'll carry extra stuff. I'll round off on the last step. But you know what my final step is? It's going to be add these two together. So when I added 14.0625 and 7.5, I got 21.6 for 4 marks. I would give you 1 mark if I saw the 7.5. I would give you 1 mark if I saw the 14.0625. I would give you 1 mark for saying, ha, I need to add these together. What that means is even if you got either of these two numbers wrong, if you knew to add them, that gets you 1 and 1 mark for the final answer. Can you give yourself a score out of, I think this quiz is out of 32?